A very good evening to you from wherever you're watching. Yeah. Today we see things up a little bit. And tonight we talk about gender discrimination, which is a topic under our main topic that is discrimination in general. So tonight we talk about gender discrimination. And to help us break down this topic, we have several people on board. Now we have Joy Zenz, who is the founder of the African Women in Trade. We also have our beautiful Victoria Nkatha on the board. And Joy, please say hi as we wait to welcome the rest of the panel.
Hi. Thank you for having me here. I'm so honored to be on this stage of the youth. And yes, as you said, I'm the founder of African Women in Europe and African Women in Trade. Happy to be here. And great
You're
discussion as
welcome.
well.
You're welcome, Victoria. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm
You're
good. You're
looking very
looking good.
nice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And so are you. And we're very excited to be out here today. It's yet another Friday, and you already know the drill. We've got good things set up for you. And today we're discussing, as Nduku said, gender discrimination. So sit back, relax, and engage with us. So, Chinese sit back, relax, and enjoy like we used to do in primary school when we were about to say a poem, yeah? When we were about to present.
Good call. Now, a lot of people are wondering, leo huyu msichana amepeleka wapi Ellie? Ellie is somewhere in the backstage. Now, before I welcome Ellie, we have the musician of the month. This man has been with us for a better part of this month. At least his music has been. And I'm
Lorraine's
just gonna say,
you see, she's already starting to, lose her words. Hey,
Eshoti
Jesus.
Lumumba, welcome on board. How are you?
I am very well. How is everyone?
We are fine. Welcome on board.
Asante sana. It's nice to be here for yet another time.
Shuchi, what did you do to know? What did you do to Nyanduko, please? I just want to know. I just want to know so that I can take notes, and then show it to somebody else to be able to do it to me as well. What did you do to her, please?
The question would be, what didn't I do to her? Because Nyanduko hasn't even replied to an inbox I sent her. So
Hey,
Did you have to do that
hey,
here? Did you have to do that here? Anyway,
hey.
now welcoming our very able CEO, our very able Mr. Man, Bikuyani Eli. Where are you, sir? Good evening and welcome. Eli?
There's something about Victorian Carter. She always has to get to my nerves. But anyway, that's why I love her. Good evening, Victoria, Nyanduko, Zenz, and Eshuti. How are you guys?
Well, thank you. We're all
I'm
good.
equally fired up. And tonight it's special because I get to sit on the other side of the aisle and let Nyanduko be the pilot, or rather the captain of this ship.
Okay, and when it's a female doing this thing, if we go too verbal, please understand. Now, to the topic, tonight we talk about gender discrimination. And to help us dig deeper into this topic, we have Joy Zenz on board. And I'll let Joy to briefly explain to us what gender discrimination is and how it is depicted in our daily society. Joy.
Hi. Thank you for having me here. And with this discussion, it's quite a very, very a big topic, and something that is going on all over the world about gender discrimination as a woman, as a man, as a woman of color, of people of color, is quite a lot of definition in that area. And yes, today, as you said, we're going to talk about gender discrimination. For me, gender is about the way I was brought up. It's between a man and a woman, and where are we in the 2021 compared to the years and so many years ago? And yes, and it's been a very a long journey. As we know, there's gender discrimination. We have to say that it was only one side bias, which is the side of the women, and that's where we want to talk about today. Why is it discrimination is only one side, or is it both sides? So I'm keen on having the discussion today.
Thank you so much, Joy. Now, I would like to pose a question to you. Now, gender discrimination, as you have said, has always been there. And the rest of the panel will help you and help me understand really what the term really actually means, because you said it has been there and it is on basis of whether you're a man or a woman. So what is gender discrimination, and what is the impact of gender discrimination in our society today?
For me, when you say discrimination is when something is not right, something is not equal. When something one goes higher than the other one, then there is always imbalance. And when there is everything together, then you say the gender is okay. I mean, everybody is happy, which is very, very difficult to have these two-sided at the same level. So the discrimination we are talking about here is, for me, I'll talk more with the women because that's the area I have been for so long. When you look at women, also talking with different culture, even if I'm based in Germany, and I compare with also where I come from Kenya, where you would see the gender, it's a different level. In Europe, it's much better for the women. Some of them are almost in the same level as the men in terms of being at home. Let me start with a very basic thing, like being at home, doing work at home, being supported at home. It's part of the parcel of a man and a woman to be part of taking roles of like a human being, to be pushing things forward. And then when you get out from home, then you go out to the society, where now you start working and you see discrimination as well. You find that some of the jobs, you will find the salaries are not the same. Women are always not paid as the men, because the men are, according when I came here to Europe, knowing that they say that is the breadwinner. So, and when the breadwinner is looked at as the man. So, and forgetting the situations where you find women who are single women, they are breadwinners, so they should be given the same. It's in most areas. Things are changing in Europe a lot. So back at home, gender discrimination is at the highest, I have to say, in some levels, and and comparing to here, but because what I see nowadays, what is easier on the area, I'm gonna go more in the positive, apart from going to the negative. You'll see that the governments are also trying to make it easier, also at work. So if a woman is working at a similar job as a man, and they would need the same salary. And considering a woman is somebody who has a family to take care of, and also go on with the duties of a normal daily family compared to a man. So if you find if you're in a working situation, you can choose how many percentage you can work. So 100% is not a guarantee. It's not something that expected for you to work 100%. 100% meaning that you work 27 days or whatever, 40 hours a week. It depends in your country how much hours you can, but you're given the discrimination. So there's quite a lot of for me, when I look at discrimination and gender, and also when you look at the men's side, they also tell us their side, which I have to say I have to consider that, because I'm a mom of two boys, so I'm not always on the female side. I also look at the men's side, and the men's side I also have to say, like, for example, in Kenya, you'll notice that there's so many movements of women, and the men have been left out, and there you see there is now going the other way around. The men are losing, the younger generation are losing their goals, because everywhere you go, oh, women first, then men. Everywhere I go, women first, and then we have another issue. So there is also there's also a problem with the gender equality to there as well, and discrimination as well.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Now we've gotten the female perspective of this, gender inequality or gender bias or gender discrimination. Now we want to get the male perspective, and to help us with that, we have Eshuti Lumumba. Before you say I lingered your DM, by the way, break it down for us, and then we'll get back to your DM later.
No, you don't have to get back to my DM on duress. You can, or at will or not. Now, gender discrimination, it's a topic that is very close home to me, and this is mainly because I've worked in situations where I think I have felt the very direct impacts of gender discrimination. And like our previous speakers just said, I think I agree with her so lengthily. it started off as a very good strategy to help equate. You see, I also feel there's a big ambiguity between the definitions of equality and equity, and people just keep missing it all around. Because what has been happening is we need to decide if we want to tackle these from an equity perspective or an equality perspective. Because a lot of the issues that we have in society today are vicious. They are things that have been conceived of previous circles that have been transferred and traditionally one person to another, one generation to another. For example, women have suffered, of course, in the past because there was the culture issue. You know, there was the obligational and societal expectations of a woman. You know, there is a woman was a child bearer, a woman was someone to take care of a home. And you see, that is more on culture. So the problem, my opinion of where this war went wrong is we started tackling an issue that we had inherited using a modern perspective without actually really thinking of solving the cause of it all. Because yeah, you come to a modern society and yeah, want man to be equal to woman, want to equate our roles together. It is very good. But are you looking at where the problem is? Because we still have mothers who keep telling our daughters and our sisters that, hey, no one will marry you with that kind of an attitude. Already you have inferiorized the woman right from the word go. And sometimes I laugh and it comes out a little sarcastic, but occasionally what I've said is a lot of the discrimination that we've faced, especially I'm speaking now on the girl child, a lot of the discrimination that the women have faced have more been emphasized by the fellow women than by the man, actually. Because society is an average of man and woman. Society is you and me, by the way. And you cannot say that society has forced women to do this. Women are part of that society. And it just takes one woman to be firm on this and stand with it. But you realize when one woman will try to go and try to fight against this or that, then most of the people who will come with the backlash would be the same women. And that's why you find independent women who've decided, you know what, I'm going to focus on career. Men decide to focus on career, no one questions them. Men decide they can't have children and no one questions them. But you see that these issues that have been placed on women, and you are almost inadequate if you are unable to give us some children and all that. So then what happens? The modern day woman succumbs. And there is a retrospect. There is also the part where I now blame the woman. I usually say I run a tiny little foundation that I call the boy child, the boy child salvation, because I think gender equality for women was a war that went a little too far, in my opinion, to the point it became something that is working against the boy child. You see, if you are going to, and that's why I tell people all the time, look at what you're using, look at what you're trying to achieve. Are you achieving equity or equality? Because if you're achieving equality, then you're going the wrong way. You cannot achieve equality and tell me that a boy child who's trying to join campus will need a higher grade as his cutoff mark, as opposed to a girl who's joining the same campus. That is not equality. That is equity.
I would like for you to hold that thought, because Ellie is vying. Is vying to say something. So Ellie, what do you have to say about tonight's topic?
Actually, thank you so much, Nzomo, for having me, and the rest of the panelists. Good evening once again. Well, I want to agree with everything that is being discussed tonight, and more of it, I want to question some of these, I would call them theories of what has been happening. And there's an important factor that Eshuchi mentioned in his statements, and he says that the biggest, enemy, if I call, of women's empowerment, and I'm talking about gender, of course, I'm being sensitive here with my words, is that a lot of the enemy that is fighting the women empowerment sort of program is actually the woman. And that brings another perspective into it, where Eshuchi mentions that the boy child was forgotten somewhere in 1994. And that now brings the imbalance in the whole topic. Because when we talk about gender discrimination. What I want people to remember is it's not about discrimination against women, neither is it against men. It is across the board. That is the first important part. And then we go back to where it was left in 1994 and in the 1995 conference, the biggest ever, almost 26 years ago in Beijing, where women congregated. And then right after that, they came back to Kenya. I will use Kenya as a case study, right? And then everybody was allowed to have trousers, and we had women rights this, women rights that. But if you look at all those rights that they have garnered over the years, my question to the rest of us that are watching tonight, what have you been able to do with them other than acting what we call the victim card? Because I have a problem with women articulating their issues with the victim card. I have no problem with women or other genders articulating the real issues that are surrounding gender imbalance and opportunities. The only problem comes in when you feel you are a victim of a system or of a society, and then you want an easy way out or some sort of, I will call them candies to entice you. That is my take for now.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. And people want candies to entice them, huh? I'd like to get Victoria's take on tonight's show and hear what she has to say about, Ellie's insights. Victoria.
Ellie decided to choose violence. Like he just woke up and decided, I am choosing violence today. That is what Ellie did today. Apple star. Sasa wakiti ati play. I okay. Let's just start from. I agree with you in the sense that it is across the board. That one we agree. However, I just want you to explain something. The last statement that you made in terms of people playing the victim card and wanting things easy and so on and so forth. I want you to expound on that specific area because I want to completely understand how or in what sense or in how I just want to understand because you
Okay,
can
fine.
easily go and offend some people by saying that simply because I want a fair shot or I want to get my money, then I'm trying to get more. Because at the end of the day, statistics do show that in some companies, a woman would get paid 0.75 cents compared to the male dollar. If I want to get the dollar, is that me acting a victim because I want more? Is that me acting a victim because I want what I deserve, or I'm trying to understand you so that we don't get heated, Yeah.
Well, I like the hit part of it, Victoria, and probably you didn't get all my sentiments. I said it very clearly that I have no problem with women or men articulating their agendas when it comes to matters equality. The only problem I have is when they tend to play a victim's card. Oh, I am not getting this amount of money because men have been given priority. Or rather, I'm not
But then you
getting this
are already a victim.
opportunity.
I am so sorry, but then you already are a victim. You're not playing a victim card. You are a victim in the sense that you're not getting what you deserve. Hence, you go back and you need to get what you deserve. I'm not. How is that playing a victim? I am the victim. I'm being treated unfairly. I'm just asking. I just need to
I
understand.
will ask Eshuti to either oppose
No,
or
no, 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 no.
second my wordings.
Don't throw the card on somebody else. Please explain yourself because I am
Own
the
your
victim.
sentiment.
I'm
Own
not.
your
Yes, I
sentiment.
want you to own it because I am a victim. I am
Mhm.
being treated unfairly. I'm not playing a victim. I'm not throwing around a victim card. I need to be treated fairly. I am a victim of discrimination, which is gender discrimination. And not only me as a woman, but let's say a man goes on and for instance, there are statistics where men are not being given positions because they're not men enough. It's teaching, caregiving, and so on and so forth. If this man goes in and says, you know what, I'm actually qualified and I need to do this, he's a victim of gender discrimination and he has every right to go in and say, you know what, I need to get my part. I am a victim. You're treating me unfairly. I'm not playing a victim card. I am a victim. Yeah.
I can
Okay.
help. I can salvage this
Okay,
brother of mine.
Esechi, take it
Okay.
away.
Now listen. there are usually a lot of similarities that would create categories around people. If you look at our live show tonight, you can decide to choose to look at this show as a show of two men and three women. That would be you looking at it from a perspective of gender. You can decide to look at this show and see people who are dressed in black, a lot of black and little white, and then two people like Nyanduko and Joy who are dressed in more white than black. You can decide to create your categories depending on what you're seeing. You can decide to look at this show and say, I see three people without glasses and one person with glasses. You can decide to look at life that way, and it's a category creation. You can decide to say, okay, I see two earphones, one headphone, and two people without anything on their ears. It is all in the perspective. So what I'm trying to say is, you could find a situation in a company, or maybe whatever Eli was trying to bring up. I'm not defending him. I'm just trying to understand what he might have meant. Expression can be a tricky thing. So you find that maybe the woman is earning a little lower than the man, but perhaps it is not because she is a woman. It's just because someone did not give it so much thought as to it. Yeah. So it becomes not just listen, Victoria. It is because we have like the way you can get into a company and just find a tradition that has been going on. You see, like, this is the pay grade, this is the pay scale, and then it just gets carried forth. So articulating that, actually coming out, does not make you a victim. Coming out now, you can come out and say, you know what, I feel victimized because this and this and this. The problem might be when you want to anchor every victimization of yourself on the gender card. You get it? Like, I find you on the road. Let me just give you a quick one. This one just happened the other day to me. We were driving in our Nairobi streets. We know how Nairobi is so messed up, and you just want to get away and go. And then I cut in front of some car that I thought was being driven a little so comfortably on a road that I felt was so busy. So I cut, and then it was coincidentally a lady. And then she says, you are harassing me on the road because I'm a woman. And I was like, okay, you see, I'm not harassing you on the road because you're a woman. I am trying to get past you because I think you are not a fast driver, and that is just as simple as it is. So if you want to categorize yourself as a woman, then well and good. But if you want to take the bigger category as a driver, it is a lot about perspective. Although I don't disagree with you, Victoria, a lot of discriminations have been anchored on gender, and I agree with that as until then. Transferred in traditional I cut, and then
Well, there's a background there. I don't know if somebody wants to come in, because Victoria, my gentleman on the seat has actually expressed my opinions like I wanted them expressed and understood. So I don't know what Joy has to say. So I will allow Joy.
Yes, it's. I always say I'm in between. I'm not allowed to. Am I muted or unmuted?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I work a lot with women and men, and I don't choose either or. I don't say none of them is discriminated, but women have higher discrimination for sure than men. And that has been generation. And I'm also have to say that I'm coming from two cultures here. So I have the African culture and I have the European culture. So I am very sensitive because what I experience here in Europe is not what is experienced in Kenya. So, and for Kenya, I know for sure it can be very extreme, and even here as well. So I give you examples like, for example, I'll give you here in Europe where I am, where I see the gender discrimination it's quite clear, is at workplace. Workplace, the salaries are the way as Victoria is trying to tell you, there are salaries for women and there are salaries for men. And you will be doing the same job with the same guy, and you must be even running more than the other one. And this is something that doesn't make sense at all. You're all educated at the same way. In fact, you should be even given more because you have your home duties as well. I would think it should be the other way around. I don't think it's any way fair to have that. And also this comes in as well as I said, when you're working as well, you find yourself with duties that sometimes given to, they say, are you woman? You might not be the good person to present as there, or you're put in areas where you have to look good, shine good, and it's clearly why you're put in some positions, and it taking the role of you as a female that you're best, and we have to consider that both of us have the best of each other side. I wouldn't say that women can do everything men can, although we always say what a man can do, a woman can. But I can tell you some things I will not do. I refuse to change the bicycle thing and all that stuff, and I don't know, car, garage, no, send it away. I don't want to do car repairs. I don't know what, not, not that I cannot, I can. Everything a woman and a man, everyone has the ability. What I see this is because I've raised two boys. And I can tell you, because I've brought them since they were babies and now they're 18. And I tell you, sometimes I say, okay, women are women and men are men, and I cannot, because when they were young, I can give you simple. Let me take you back to the simple of just being born and the young children. So we have this, me and in the kindergarten with the mothers, and we are playing together, and I'm seeing this girl is doing all these things, and wow, and I'm like, oh, my boys cannot do that. What is wrong with my boys? And then I'm like, why? This one can walk, this one can sing, this one can, and all the guys were always like tat, and the men my boys were just slow. So, but I wouldn't say all Charlie the same, but you tend to see this quite clearly at the early age. Yeah. Until today, I still see it, but I accepted it, that's the way. But at some point, they catch up and they're all different. And we are also different women. We are brought up different, because I think the life prepares for us a different goal. They know that women, we need to be active, ready to be mothers and carers, and that's what you see even at the small age. They're caring and all that, and the boys are just doing their thing. But when they're given their role to be responsible, and I also give you back again with the responsibility as a woman. There's some things that we women, especially, I was married, and again now I'm divorced, so I can tell you also both sides. Right. So when I was married, everything, there was this man doing everything for me and doing that. Wow, hula hoo, cool. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And he was good at what he was doing. So he was doing accounting and all this stuff. And then when again you're a woman and now you're alone, you're on your own, and you have to take responsibilities. Not that you cannot. You can, but it's a challenge when the roles change. Even the role of the way you raise your kids now, you have like two roles. You don't know whether you're a mother or dad, So when it comes to discrimination, talking about gender, we cannot also ignore that we are all different. We are all different in our own way, as a man, as a woman, and we are created to do different roles, and some different roles we can do, but we struggle in it, but we still manage in it as well. So discrimination for me, I cannot say which one is pure or not, but in every culture, in every area you see, it's like black and white. It's something that I don't think it will ever be equal. That's my thinking, that it will never be equal, but when it comes to salary, that has to be equal.
I
Thank
then
you
have
so
a
much,
question.
Zoe. Thank you so much. Now, we are going to go on a very short commercial break. And when we come back, we are going to, get more deeper into the topic. Ellie?
There will be other competing outside factors that will affect your relationship. Like you have an issue with your partner, the first thing you do, you run to your friends, you run to your sisters, you run to your peers to get advice.
We have weak men out there, and there are men who are weak in all areas. So probably talking to somebody else about your sexual experiences in bed might have been their way of getting the other woman. I don't know. So I will not sit and defend that.
Masculinity is the nature of a man. Do we create nature?
Even as we say that the boy child is under siege, we need to ask ourselves, how have we brought up this boy child that we're talking about? Is it the Kababa generation? As long as it's the Kababa generation, we will always have problems.
Why is it becoming a common trend for Black Africans to feel like their skin being lighter? It's more interesting.
The rates at which people are bleaching are getting higher and higher by day, because society has said what should be beautiful and what is not beautiful, you know?
It boosts your confidence. So that is what most ladies think. I saw the challenge that you posted. A black Porsche, a white Porsche. Not many people like white cars. Like black looks more sexy, black looks beautiful. So fair skin, black skin is also fair skin.
But when we come to casting these strong Black women, we want to cast them for security guard roles. I don't know what ideas we're driving.
You start having different, like Nduko said, there's some places that don't even bleach. I am tempted to think about some other places as well.
So every time that I'm by you, I'm gonna make an effort to secure your little insecurities. And every time you stand with me, nakuahidi utajua, utaamini that I'm just a simple man.
Now, yes, he's just a simple man, he says. Okay, we are back from our commercial break, and that was a beautiful piece. If you've not heard it, go to his YouTube channel and you're going to get the rest of it. Now, we come back with our topic on gender discrimination, and we get further into masculinity. Now, I want to address what masculinity is and what your take on masculinity is. Remember to keep sending in your feedback, and we will get to it after we get to hear what Eshuti has to say about what masculinity is. What is masculinity and femininity according to you, Eshuti?
Masculinity and femininity. What do you call the female version of masculinity?
Yes, that's what.
Right.
Yes. I've disappointed myself.
Okay. Masculinity and that other word, the female version of it, in my opinion, is it's just DNA. It's just structural, but we've escalated it as a society. And in fact, earlier on, if you listened when I was talking about equity, I think equity is what now needs to come in to balance off this. For instance, men are naturally, physically more able than women, for example. So if we're talking about, we can't have a football match of mixed genders, for instance, because men have the physical endurance that would always outdo the women, for instance. Now, when we come on the other side, then we also have areas that women are able, like emotionally, when we're speaking about emotional expression, sometimes even emotional intelligence, a lot of women would score more than men, because these are areas that I think they're hormonal, by the way. I think it's something to do with the testosterone and that other one, the estrogen in women. There's a lot of that, because you see, with an angry reaction to me, there is the me that will always come out. For example, as a man, if I am offended, like seriously offended, or maybe let me call it humiliated, it is my ego that will feel bruised. When my ego is bruised as a man, if I do not have proper emotional intelligence to handle my ego, then I get physical. And that is now the difference between maybe someone who's able to handle themselves emotionally and someone who's unable to. And that's why unaambiwanga enda shule, huyu ameenda shule, huyu hajaenda shule. The way you'll handle your things are just visibly different. Masculinity for me are the things, the peculiar aspects of a man that makes a man. But then again, the reason why we've gotten now, there's this trending hashtag of now toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity now, in my opinion, it is the male version of what I call the toxic feminists. Because a lot of people who have interacted with me will notice I am actually a feminist. But like Ellie, and I wouldn't lie to you, like Ellie, the moment you are trying to come to me with baseless, those feminist, feminist points, feminist cards and all that. It just ends there, because we have men who are fighting a war that they have nothing to do with. And that is where we get it wrong. We have females who are fighting for equality that they don't understand anything about. We get that wrong too, because it is like just finding people in a demonstration carrying banners, and then you join them and start chanting what they are chanting. Sometimes I wish people really understood what it means when they talk about inequality. Now, I'll talk about masculinity in my understanding. There are things that as a man, for example, my masculinity shouldn't allow me to do. For example, if I am going to fight with a woman, like physically, okay, that is cowardice. I have no other way to put it. That is because that is not a gender that my gender should go on and take on physically. So masculinity for me is just the aspect of using my abilities that are maybe a deficit in the woman's gender for the good of the entire society, my society and her society. But you see, even this inequality that we're talking about, it came from there. And I'll just tell you this a little bit. You've had these stories about oh, don't marry from this tribe, don't marry from this tribe, tribalism, nini na nini. Manze, I think I've lived with almost half the communities in this country, Kenya. And I can tell you, tribalism is not bad, but yes, some of these sentiments are anchored on particular. Kwanza ukienda in the cultural setups, you go to, let's say, I've lived in Kisiland, and this is just my observation. In Kisiland, you'll realize almost 80% of the running of a home is left for the woman. The woman will do that. The woman will wake up, take care of the kids. Things as simple as taking care of animals and cattle. It's the woman who will do. What do the boys do? The boys will wake up, go take a stroll in the centers, and then come back. By the way, I lived and observed by the Kisiland and Kalenjin land quite peculiarly. So you'll realize, and it is not an attack, anyone out there try and get me, this is an observation that I'm expressing. And I could tell just how this culture is seeping into the kind of men they're raising, because then at the end of the day, you have a woman who's the one taking care of children, you have a woman who's cooking for you, you have a woman who's gotten out there to take care of cattle, something that you should probably be doing. Then this woman comes back and then has to cook for you. And then when you look at the hierarchy of that family, I'm assuming that an ideal family should have an hierarchy where if the father is the head, for it, as society puts it for now, the father would be at number one, then the mother, and then the children. But we have cultures that, whether you believe me or not, it is the father, the sons, the women, the girls, and then the cattle. In some families, you would even find women on the same levels with the cattle. By the way, it's that bad. I don't, trust you me, I agree. So you realize that when you are a man who's brought up in this culture, until you get to the point where you can look at life extensively and be rational about how you attack life, you'll realize you've lacked so much. You know that women were always created at your disposal for your use. You get it. You need something, you need a woman to get it done. You need something, you need a woman to get it done. And that's why you feel things like, I know of men who cannot just stand women talking to them. And I'm like, that is where it all starts. You get it. That is where it all starts. And interestingly enough, once such a culture has built itself in you, you will take it wherever. You'll come from your house with that commandeering attitude and take it to your workplace. You find a woman at workplace and you want to talk to them the same way. You get it. And then now, over time, like I'm telling you, the people fighting for this equity don't even know what they're fighting for, because they don't even know where the root is. Now, there's a retrospect. Over time, women have built defenses. They've built defenses that were meant for good. But over time, again, the defenses have gotten so thick that they don't discriminate over who shoulders the burden of the discrimination. Because you just find a man who, by the way, has no issues with women, by the way, Mimi, Joy, you'll forgive me. For me, my perspective of discrimination is mostly on women. Although now it's that discrimination that has seeped over into affecting the good men. You get it? So you come to a man who...
I'm just gonna come in right there because right
Okay.
before you go too far, when you look at the definition, we started out by defining what gender discrimination is. And this is the fact that, and I'm just gonna dive a bit deeper into what you just said, gender norms or rules that tell us what is appropriate for girls, boys, women, or men to do in our society. Now, going into what you just said, we have rules that states that women are supposed to work here, women are supposed to do this, men are supposed to do this. You go into something that Joy said about her not being able to do, for instance, changing a car thing and so on and so forth. I mean, we have women who are doing that. However, it's that sense of a lot of us that usually go into deeper and say that "Ini kazi ya mwanaume," this is a man's job, or this is a woman's job, or this is for the girls, or this is for the boys. You also said that men should be the ones in the cattle, women should be in the kitchen, and so on and so forth. You have women who are more into marketing than now in tech and in architecture. Women have to fight towards standing their ground in a what so male dominated situation, because it's male dominated because society has stated that this is for men, this is for women. And then you realize that you have women who have to stand their ground and say, you know what, I am as skilled, if not more skilled. You have men who can be caregivers, but because of the fact that they're not, as I said before, men enough, they're not feminine enough, or rather, sorry, not men enough, they're not they're not easy or soft or whatever. They're not chosen for these jobs. So just to go off of that, I understand the fact that we're describing these things in a positive note. However, think of it in the sense that these could actually be these norms and rules that we appropriate people and tell them what they are supposed to do and be in the society. Isn't this what is killing our society and creating discrimination in general? Because why can't a man be a teacher in the sense that they're not looked at? I read a story where one was being investigated for watching some inappropriate things, or rather for just a lot of them, a lot of the male teachers are being followed through so that they are made sure that they're not pedophiles. But I mean, why wouldn't a woman be done, or rather, why wouldn't they follow up on women in that regard? Simply because men are not considered to be nurturers. Hence, they can't take care of children if they don't have certain pervertic thoughts. I mean, it's crazy, but don't you really think, and this is across the panel, guys, don't you think the fact that we always go back to gender roles, gender rules, that this is what actually contributes towards gender discrimination?
I think because it was on me, I would love to respond quickly just before others come in. First of all, on the pedophiles and all that, usually laws are created depending on the consistency of a particular crime in the area. So statistically, it is men. The rate at which men abuse children of the opposite gender is more than that of men. So then it is natural that someone would be keen. Let me tell you something. Most of you know that I'm a teacher, and I teach the very young children, by the way. I teach across board. But then my interaction with the young ones, and it's something that I came to learn over time, I would find women who genuinely be concerned. And because I interact with a lot of mothers and their children, it's the women, you'd find grapevine stories. Is my child okay with that gentleman and all that? And initially I would instantly want to feel, why do you have to, be? But then over time you look at it, for every probably 8 cases of men who've raped children. There was just one woman who maybe did something to a child. So then that then informs why it would be a lot stringier on men to achieve such. Okay, when I was talking of roles and the cultures I was trying to air on, actually I was not trying to accord particular roles to a particular gender. All I said was I observed a culture where the woman did everything. There was almost nothing that the man contributed, and therefore the man ended up an entitled being, where the man's job was to have everything that he needed done by the woman. So then you get to the outside world, and the world is real, and the world doesn't know who you are in your homestead. The world doesn't know who you are, how you order around your sisters, and the world needs you to bring your best foot forth. And because you can't do that, now you start taking it out on strangers in the world who are on the other gender, who are at your workplace and all that. And that is the perspective. But I still think, even when we're talking of tech and all this and all that, I still think it is not that women can't do better than men. But you see, the same thing I'm saying, there is historical statistics, and this is where you'll always want to fall back to. When you go to an interview and someone wants your profile or your portfolio, it's because they want to use your past to decide how. So when the first woman gets into tech, and there's never been a woman into tech, of course there'll be that of, hey, are you sure you're gonna manage this? So it is very okay, and I think that is more human nature than discriminatory. I would want to know what history says, what statistics says about this particular person being in this particular area. Offsetting that is what we've probably not really figured out how to, and especially in the best way as well.
But then I'd still argue in the sense that at work, in the workplaces, Jesus, women prehistorically have not been in the workforce generally. So
Yeah.
where did we bridge the gap, or rather create the gap between what women can do and what women cannot do? Because if you go back to date, women generally weren't in the workforce. So where did that women should do these particular jobs while men should do these particular jobs? Because if you go back, men were doing basically everything.
It started
Everything.
it's
Can I jump in
sure,
I would
there?
like
sure,
to
Just
sure,
even
just
sure,
Joy
sure,
a bit
Joy.
because yeah,
Yes,
she's been quiet for a
I
minute.
like, yes, I was just saying, I like listening also other views as well, not only mine. I talk a lot, and Victoria can tell you that sometimes it's good to listen. And I just want to, I like the way you said, Victoria, you just started saying, where did it start from? It's a culture. Every culture is the one that bring everything up to the government, to the rules and the regulation. It starts from basically from home, and then you build a culture. And this has started for a long time because, as you know, me and I back at home, look at my grandmother, how are we raised? And as much as this culture says a girl should cook and you'll be married, you'll be sold how many cows, and then you'll go there. It continues and continues, but within time, the culture is changing, and we can see that as we are growing, new generation and new generation. I'm the kind of person who believe in evolution, so nothing is permanent. So we are always changing the culture. So everything should also catch up with the changes. So, for example, I have boys in my house, yeah, and my boys that do everything. I just don't even have discussion about it. And then when I look at it, I compare myself how I was brought up. We were 3 girls and 2 boys in our home, and the boys were doing nothing, and I was the middle girl, and I wouldn't do anything if my brothers didn't do anything. So there was always a fight in the house. So my sisters would end up doing it anyway, because I would say, if the boys, I could not understand why they wouldn't do something, and I have to do it. So we had these arguments all along the life. And now that I have boys in my house, they have to do things, because it doesn't matter. We're in the same house. You have to clean, you have to cook, and you have to do all these things. But and because I've been brought up in the culture of that, but I still tend to do so much for them, thinking, they're boys, they will do this. But within time, I'm in a different culture in Europe. This doesn't work. Everyone takes part of the society and and everything that goes with the agenda. I mean, there's nowhere in the family raising that I've seen it that much. Although in some cultures you'll still find it there when you go down to the village. It's it's generation that is taking time, and the culture is saying you're in a new generation now, and what you do to your children today is what will determine what happened to their children and the children after. So we have to start from ourselves, you and I. And I have to say that because, for example, I was in Kenya, and it's a very interesting story. I wanted to do engineering. I wanted to do with cars. Now that I said I don't want to do cars, but that time I wanted to do engineering. I wanted to do the cars. I was very good with physics, and everybody was getting 0. I was getting 90. I don't know why. Don't ask me why, but it was just happening. And I thought of, this is good. But then when I look at the schools, they're like, what? They're all men in that school. I mean, why would I go to a man and do all this tech? And I always wanted to do computers and all these things. And my father was like, oh no. Then I came to Europe, and I was just given a computers out of nowhere. And right now, nobody have ever taught me anything. What I do, I taught myself. And I go like, oh my God, if I knew that earlier, I would be in the tech, but I would be really beyond, because I enjoy tools, I enjoy software, I enjoy this. Something probably you don't hear with any women buy shoes, I buy softwares. That's what I do. So it's never too late to catch up. That's another thing. But you can imagine, if we know what we know now, that we can do from now on, we should start with ourselves, with our children, with people we hang around with, and especially in Kenya. And I have to say this because I'm started now working with African women in trade. And actually, I wanted to do African women, I mean, not women alone, a trade thing. And I started going in it. Oh my God, it was so male dominated. I was like crushed, like a small, and this is not the area where I belong. I'm always like a leader, so I want to be on top, but I couldn't go far. But as soon as I started women in trade, unbelievable. Oh, doors open, like, and the women are embracing, you're working with them and you're going along. I mean, and I was like, is this the culture? I thought it had changed a bit. Knowing that I've been here over 20 years, I was expecting something more acceptable. Look at when you have, and then I started doing my research, looking at the situation in the countries, even in the continent in general, not only Kenya, in continent. If there is anywhere, you look at the African Union when they sit down, all of them are men. Everywhere when there is, even politics, even if when they're going for these rallies, just look around. I have been observing, these are men. I mean, for a long time, I've been in the women world that I forgot there's so many men in this world, and it's unbelievable how much it's in Africa. I have to say, we have a long way to go. But I'm happy that we have this initiative for women. Otherwise, the women will be held back for a long, long time. And I have to say, even if men think they're ruling their house, I don't think in Africa men are ruling the house. They're the women. If you look at your mother, who makes the decision in that house is actually the women. The one who says it is a man, but the one who really put in order in your house actually is the women. So I just wanted to bring this aspect in there, that if we want change, we have to start with ourselves here, like me and my children, and you, if you're planning to have your kids, if you're ever going to get married, how are you going to treat your wife when you get there? Are you going to be taking care of theirs? Are you going to take these roles? We have to start thinking more to change this culture, because it will not change if we don't do it ourselves. It doesn't change itself until a whole big generation change. And it's coming definitely.
Thank you, Joy. I would like Ellie to kindly take us through the comments. Before I ask you a question, I have a question specifically for you, Ellie, and then you'll probably throw it around the panel, because I can see the conversation is really flowing now. I don't see. So the comments, please, and then we will get back to the show.
Thank you, Nyanduka. And we brought you Shuchi to help you because he has some interesting extra pair for you.
Right?
So allow me to go through some of the comments. And of course, for everybody that is joining us, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. This is an interesting topic that needs everybody's input. I have my own, but let's see what they're saying in the comments list. There's this one that I find very interesting from Jakita. She says, related to work, men and women should be judged equally with the same standards and criteria, and then have the same salary for same responsibilities, and that's specifically related to work. However, men and women are different and so not equals. This is something that Eshuchi said. It goes with our culture. Thank you. So we shouldn't see things as if I do this, you must also do that. Good one. Husband says biologically, both are having different roles, and in this case, that is men and women, and some major responsibilities which they have to fulfill. The distinct roles and behavior give rise to gender discrimination. Interesting. I see Victoria on the backstage pointing out some fingers, so we will help her later on. Probably she will give a rejoinder to that. Let's see. Okay. Yes, there's somebody who says haki yetu. And this is something that always happens when there is a, there is a process of trying to make some things or voices heard. The best that will happen are placards and branches of leaves and everybody haki yetu, wanawake haki yetu. We know that. Thank you so much, Aunt Seraphine. And then we have, Rhoda says, Leo watu wako on fire. Yes, this is a hot topic and needs diverse opinions and definitely, of course, contribution towards it. And of course, every other person that is joining me, I just picked a few Nyanduko because of time. So back to you, Nyanduko.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Ellie. You have really helped me there. You know me and eyesight and problems going on. So I have a question for you. But before we do that question, I would like you to take us to another short commercial break. Make it short. And when you come back, you're gonna tell me what you think are the parameters, for gender bias. What do you actually think causes this gender bias? What are the parameters? What are the measurements for gender bias? Ellie, take it away.
Thank you. We are back. Of course, you're watching Art in Heart, and the topic tonight is gender discrimination. And when I talk about the parameters that we use, basically the most common ones will shoot at job opportunities, or rather employment opportunities. And of course, education and access to some services for that matter. If I put it at employment opportunities, that's where you see Hakietu and the likes of Victoria attacking me. Victoria, I would like to have you on screen so that we can have this discussion. So if you ask me, most of the time we get it wrong because we tend to pitch it man against woman. Okay? That's where it goes wrong. But if we were to pitch it in terms of qualifications, then that's where the question comes in. I will paint you a photo, rather a picture or an image of what happens in the society that I come from, and in this case is Kenya. We know that from the constitution that exists to date, they brought in some things called women representatives. And this has always remained a very touchy subject, especially for those leaders that are in that position. Some of them being questioned as to why they're exactly in those positions. I'm not going to discuss the constitutionality of it tonight, but I'm just going to discuss the practicality. Of course, we appreciate every single leader being a woman that goes there, makes sure she legislates and pushes for policies that are there for the betterment of the society. But have you ever wondered, why is it that they become so prominent when they will make some stances that a lot of us will relate to and call them slay queen sort of stances? Every time we see them on news for particular reasons, and I'm being very cautious with this word, as I say some, it's because of a new pair of shoes she bought somewhere, or because she wants to show us what she has. what she's been given naturally. We've seen her without mentioning names. We've seen this particular leader who is always in the news and tries to stay relevant because of her outlook. So that is where the problem comes. So we tend to say, as a people, we need to have equal accessibility to leadership and this and that. That is very wrong. We have to critique our qualification based on the ability to actually deliver that which we have been given the honors to do so. For now, Nyanduko, that is my take. I think Eshuchi has something to say.
Is that you giving me a pass?
A pass, and maybe
okay.
you'll deal with Victoria. I'm avoiding Victoria at all costs.
Okay. Politics in Kenya, in my opinion, would be the worst ever scenario to bring on board as a threshold to measure what is qualification or not, because even the men we have in politics, man, they just have nothing to do. Yes, I would put politics out of question. My take would be there's been a very deliberate effort to actually get women to achieve the third gender rule, which is very logical if you ask me. And this one, I want to speak as a son. I was raised by a mother who, everyone thinks their mother is the best, but I know my mom was the best. I was raised by a mom that I think was the best. And one thing that I know deep down, I look at the president of, I think, is it Venezuela? The female president. I'll get to that. One thing I know about women, and this one is now speaking honestly and not trying to be masculine, not to bring anything gender here. Women have a very intrinsic caring spirit that you cannot just offset. And whenever they are given a position of authority, unless you are fighting over other issues, manze, there'll always be something about a woman, especially a qualified woman. They'll always be trying to bring their motherly nature even at work. I have seen that. I have female bosses, and you see the way they handle your situation, the way they handle your issues, and you're like, you know what, manze, this is more a mother than a boss. It's a little different. It's a little different for men, and there I pick a little bit of an issue with. Before I pass this to Victoria, I want to ask her one simple question, a very simple one. The moment she answers it, I will give something interesting that I want to input, because I also really itch about, there's one thing I really itch about. Victoria, and answer me as honestly as you can, my dear. All factors constant, everything constant. Would you wish to date a man who is, or to marry a man who is at the same financial levels with you, or would you wish they were above your financial levels? Try to be as honest as you can, because your answer is going to be very important to my next contribution.
What? Madam Watson and your avoid Wingina is asking me very hard questions. I just have to pick one. Is it?
I
would
don't
I
give.
prefer? Is it because I'm trying to understand your question. You asked if I would want to date a man or a man.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Maybe let me just rephrase it and make it as simple and close-ended as possible. Would you be okay if the man you married was on a lower financial threshold than you? Would
Yes.
this be your ideal?
That one is
right?
not a problem. Yes,
Oh,
I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay
very
with it.
well. Very well. Because I'll just have a yes. I'll just have
Hey,
I just have
did
a
you
quick
see
one,
that?
Joy. Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes,
Joyce said
I saw
no.
that.
Joyce said no.
I saw that. And I'll tell you why I'm asking this. Sometimes I feel we could be fighting a war that has bigger origins than just culture. You know, we could be fighting wars that a war that is coming from a different place. I will tell you something. One of my exes, maybe okay, she could be somewhere listening, but one of my exes, and probably the best, to be very honest, once told me something that I thought was the most honest a lady has ever told me. Uh, she was at a very good financial position, and probably we were at par. But I could tell, we could tell she had better chances of even getting better. My chances were not as good then. And this is what she told me. She told me very honestly, she told me, I would really wish that you worked and be able to earn better than me. Because then when you're able to earn better than me, you can legitimately become the head of the family. Because a lot of family decisions are anchored on finances, like it or not. If I want my children to go to the group of schools and I do not have the money to afford that, and the mother has the money to afford that, the mother will take the kids to the group of schools. Then, as a man, I will start feeling intimidated. And because I'm starting to feel intimidated, then I will start to feel like I need to use some other power to secure my authority over this woman. Hence, possible discrimination. That is just one avenue I look at. And now I'm coming to personal observation and general experience in life. What I've always noticed is the more successful women become. This is a personal observation, and you cannot nullify it because I'm stating a factual observation. The more women ascend financially, independently, and in power, their dreams of the ideal men become higher. So then you realize that on most scales, if I am not to be at par, if I'm unable to be at par with you, then I possibly just cannot be able to be with you. And it just becomes as simple as that. And sometimes I start feeling that in a usual setup, in a usual family setup, you look at, you'd expect an independent woman to, uh, independent is a word I don't like. You'd expect a financially stable woman to come up and be like, you know what, I will take care of this. I can take care of this. I can take care of this. But even that financially able woman would still want, and they would still be very, very willing to voice things that, in their opinion or in their point of views, this has to be men's responsibility. And they'll make it very clear, you know what, this one a man, and there's this breed of women who know who real men should be than the real men know themselves. Someone comes to you and they're like, a real man should, are you a man? A real man should do this. A real man should be able to do this. Have you ever been a man? Where is that logbook? Where is the catalog of what a real man should do? So what I'm saying is, men are not emotionally expressive people. But sometimes I think, and this is not defense, I think sometimes the discrimination and the overwhelming response from men against women could be coming from a place of, redirecting the angers. I'm not able to fulfill this as a person, so then I have to devote to my other strength, which would probably be physical, or violence or whatever it is. Then it ends in discrimination. That is something I thought.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a
Yes.
question. I have to ask
No.
you this question. Just
Yeah.
to really just reflect back on the question that you asked me. Would you be comfortable with a woman who earns more than you?
Very comfortable.
Now you see
If
already
yes.
there, just a second. Because to me, I wouldn't prefer a man who earns less than me, but I'd be okay with it. Now you mentioned something that is very, very important: the sense of ego that comes in a woman
Yeah.
earning more than you, and the
Yeah.
sense of pride that also steps in with a woman who is earning more because of her feelings towards you earning more. Already there we have a sense of what a man, as you said, a real man, and this is not even said by women and their ideas. This is what society has placed in: a man should be able to drive a car, he should be able to have a good job, he should be able to earn a certain amount of money, and he should be able to patiana fair, give fair, and facilitate for facilitate for a lot of other things, pay a woman's rent, and so on and so forth. This is already classified in all those men's responsibilities, which places men at a position of, they know that they should earn more, and if I don't earn more than her, I feel like I'm inferior because I'm not able to give her what she wants. You understand? And where does this come from? Not from us as individuals, because already we have established I'm comfortable with a man who earns less, because there's a lot more into that. There's a lot more into that. Of course, I'm not comfortable with a man's mentality being that he should stay at that level. You have to upgrade, but
Yeah.
in the sense that it's okay and it's not the basis of what we want, but you feeling inferior, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And
Actually,
me,
actually, let me just cut you short. Let me just cut you short. If you
I also
remember,
want to chip in also when you finish.
hear me. Yes, what I told you is I never thought there was a problem with that until a person from your gender rationally spoke to me about it. And yes, I was trust you me, and I will tell you for a fact, she told me that from a very good place. That is how I know that it is a deal. And even with how you're putting it, that you're comfortable, you are comfortable theoretically until you get into it. And then you just start realizing, you know what? Yes. Yes. Because
And let
you
me
see,
chip in here. Let me
yes,
chip in
please.
here
Yes,
a
I've
please,
little
Joy.
bit.
dated,
Let me,
somebody who's
Vicky,
lesser.
let's
I've
allow
dated
Joy
somebody.
Zant out
Wait,
here.
no.
you must have wondered why
Joy,
I shook my head like no way. I
Joy,
mean,
go ahead.
you can hear me?
Yes, yes.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, why I shook my head because in the culture, especially the culture, if you're in Kenya where you are in, it's a no-go zone. Let me just tell you. I mean, there is, and it's gonna be very tough in the future because I mean, being a woman, and let me put it because I struggle with these two cultures for 20 years. So I'll give you the both cultures and how it is here and how I would think it would be in Kenya. Because you be in Kenya and in the situation of the culture there, it's a no-go zone. It's actually I don't know, and that's why we are finding a lot of women, very many of them, they are getting a lot of power, a lot of money, and they are staying single. And they will never get married because first of all, it starts not only within you and the person, also it goes on with your family members, your father, your mother, you go with your friends, and they're not stupid. They will see there is that point, and it will not put any man in a very good position and in a culture like that. You would want to be comfortable, but you're always reminded and felt to feel this way and even confronted sometimes by your own comrade. Like I wouldn't even advise that. It will kill the manhood and the whole relationship at some point, which why get into it in the first place. But it's changing because in the culture where I am right now here, this is very common, but it comes with a different culture. Here is like, fine, I go work and you take care of the kids and you cook and you do all this. It's okay for them. Because at the end of the day, there are roles of the responsibility that has to be done. The money just doesn't come on its own. It takes time. And that means you cannot be the same person going to work, coming back, cooking and cleaning, and also especially most of the time is that either they're working or not working because we don't have like house helpers here a lot. So one of you have to really completely like step down completely. Like one of you have to. And I've seen marriages like that. The men step down, took care of the kids because when they looked at their situation, who would bring money home more? It would be the woman more than the man. So the man stays home. And you see them around. Nowadays, I see them. Everyone is kid by pushing the kids and doing everything. And it's normally a short term, not long term. But you can feel the culture also is struggling because when you go to the kinder plays and you're playing with the children, you're the only man with so many women, and all these. I can imagine it's not something that happened. And I've seen it because I've worked in a company where I know the women have earned a lot of money and they tell you, well, we share the duties. So this is what happens. These or they have to pay these and you have to pay that. You have to have like a compromise. But most of the time it's completely the extreme. One stays at home and one works. That's it. I mean, and it's acceptable. The culture, we see this, we accept it. But the culture where you are in, that's why I shook my head. It's gonna get there some point, but it's something we are not yet that ready yet. I mean, and it will kill your personality. I'm telling you, it's gonna kill everything inside you out. And I would not go that direction if I was a man.
Thank you,
Thank
Joy.
you.
Thank you so much. I think you answered. Shuchi. Now, I would like us to go for a very short commercial break, and then when we come back, we want to talk about the solutions to the problems that we have. Ellie, take it away.
Wow, as we take this commercial break, I just want to let you know, guys, that we are Art in Heart, and we get to discuss everything that involves society and society expectations, and of course, the art is part of it. In case you didn't know, there is this interesting young man on the bench tonight, and he has interesting perspective. His name is Eshuti Lumumba. Follow him on YouTube at Eshuti Lumumba to find his new album, rather his new single, which is Simple Man. I don't know how simple it is, but this is just a sneak peek of that song.
So every time that I'm by you, I'm gonna make an effort to secure your little insecurities. And every time you spend with me, nakuahidi utajua, utaamini that I'm just a simple man.
Indeed. Are you a simple man, Ishuchi? And even as we think about being simple, because tonight you realize the ladies are actually pulling too much towards their end, especially Victoria. And I'm avoiding any conversation that will involve Victoria tonight. Let me just understand one thing. And I know probably we mentioned it earlier on, but there is a misconception of equality and equity. That is where I want to really focus as we try to make a conclusion. Is it okay if and I think that's also some of the things that informed our current way of doing things back at home, where we have, the regionals and all those kind of things, county governments and stuff like such. But I have a feeling that even as we advocate for gender balance and gender equality, people still think it has to be I'm losing my head. Stop looking at me, Victoria. I mean, we are talking about the equality part of it, whereby, we have to do this. If a man does this, this has to be done. But are we really getting it right, Eshuchi? Are we getting it right as it is right now?
You can't trade equality for equity. And that is what I think is wrong, because equality is earned. Equity can be negotiated. And what do I mean by equity? Like what Joy was telling us on board. Equity is where I see you at a point where I feel you are deficient in this particular way. For example, a lady has a lot to do, and society has placed it that way. A lady has so much to do, and probably we're struggling to get women in tech, we're struggling to get women in architecture and all that. And so we are trying to, we're going to try and give women a slight head start, for them to be at a place where they can at least compete, at level ground with men. That is equality. You get it? And the same would also go for a man. For example, you're in the house. Let me tell you, as simple as equality is a very simple thing. You could be in the house, she's a better cook, and you are the worst cook, and you guys want to eat. But she wants you to feel like, you have your way around in the kitchen. So she goes, does for you the preparations, marinations, and all that, and tells you, you get that thing in the oven and get it cooked. She's giving you a head start. That is equity. But you see, equity only works when the other person has accepted that deficiency. The problem is you try to give someone a head start, and this person already feels they are good enough. So you want to choose one thing. You cannot choose to be equal while you're using equity to level it up. If you want to be equal, get to the field there and get the same head start. Start on level. Then now we can talk about equality. But if you want to talk about equity, then we understand. Say manze, apa. You see, like when we say we need to nominate we need to nominate a lot of women member of parliaments. For me, that's not equality. That's equity. What you're doing is there's so many men, but if we put all these people on the ballot out there, women are still not gonna garner votes to get on board here. So what are we going to do? We're going to deliberately get them on board, which is a very good thing. It's a head start. But you see, a lot of people have compromised one for the other. And I think going forth, mnataka niwapatie a very genuine solution, a very, very genuine solution to this equality and equity problem. Mimi, it always rolls down to relationships. I visited Zimbabwe one time, just one time in my life, and I'm a very keen person. And one observation I made in a conference that I attended where there were lots of couples, I realized a lot of the couples that were there were quite within the same age bracket. You'd find a woman who's 30 and the husband is 31. A man who's 30 and the wife and the wife is even 32. And there wasn't so much of an issue over there. Then come to this country of ours, come to these other ninis. So you find you have, first of all, there is quite some serious aspirations. Right now, I am maybe in my 30s, and maybe you find people in their late 30s. But now the people they want to hang around with, the girls they want to hang around with, whatever the girls are looking up to up there is quite out of that. And you see, already this places you with a man who already feels way superior. I don't know if I'm still audible enough. Am I? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So you end up if you are going to be with me and we have that kind of a gap, then definitely you're not you're not in a partnership. You are in a situation where you have someone up there and someone down here, and that is where entitlement comes. Because someone develops entitlement without you noticing, because then they realize you do not have level ground. What can you talk about after every other thing is said and done? So someone starts towering over you. Yes. That is it is very far-fetched, but Manzemi, that's my solution.
Eshiti, I'm gonna go back to the whole equity and equality and so on and so forth. Already, I don't feel like you can achieve equality when it comes to gender without equity, especially when you discuss women, because first and foremost, women already are, as we have talked about, we've discussed here, women already are historically and socially at a disadvantage. And if you need to be able to achieve equality, or rather, let me ask this as a question. Don't you think that to achieve equality, especially for women, mind you, this whole conversation started when I was on both ends, but now you see, I still have to still have to fight Kudogo. Don't you think that to achieve gender equality, especially for women who already are at a social and historical disadvantage, there needs to be strategies and measures that favor women so that we can get to a point in society where women are playing at a fair game, because you cannot tell me that you want to place a woman and a man here and tell them go ahead and play when already the woman already has an unfair disadvantage. We discussed the fact that women already, as right now, even the United Nations have made research in regard to how women and men are working from home. You have women in the office where they always have to, when they're home, they have to do this and do that. They have to take care of the kids. They have to be able to re strategize themselves because they have to cook. They have to do this and that, and men don't suffer from these things. So already, if you're going to judge a woman in the same position based off of her, let's say, productivity, while she's focusing on all these other things, does that really give a fair chance? Even though we are in the same job, we're in the same field, we're doing the same thing, does that give her a fair chance or a fair playing level? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Therefore, you need some strategies. Let's say, for instance, pushing her deadlines, for instance, where she, because she's a woman, because she's dealing with all these things, because she has to take care of all these things, these strategies, such as, for instance, pushing her deadline, needs to be in place, because if she doesn't have the same amount of hours to work in as a man, then you cannot blame her and say, oh, you want equality. But you put in these strategies and measures to make sure that she's at the same playing level, because it doesn't mean that she's not qualified, she doesn't want to do her job, but there are things that are stopping her from doing this and from being at the same level ground. Now, eventually, I do believe that we will be able to place in, or rather play at the same level. But as of yet, we still need to give individuals, whether men or female, that those measures and strategies. What do you feel about this? Because I'm just, for me, equity goes on to bringing equality. That's what I personally feel, especially for women.
Yeah, I agree with you fully on that one, especially when you say that equity and equity, it has to be both of them in the same area, because as you said, me being a mom, knowing how I had to go and work, I have to give you a real example. I hardly work 100%. So I only work, when I started with 60%, which means 2 or 3 days per week. And then I continued and then I said, oh, I can manage that. And I added another 80%. I said, oh, I can still manage that. Then I made a mistake. I went for 100%. That was the worst mistake that I ever did. I burned out and actually quit the job myself, like really, like, no, because I was losing out on the kids. For literally, it's like telling me living in the work. Yeah, waking up in the morning, dressing up at 7 and getting to work, and then you're back at 6, 7, very late in the evening, straight to the kitchen, cook. Don't forget, I'm a single mom, right? Cook, have the kids, for even the homeworks are out of the question. Yeah, I put in the reality. You don't even have the homework, leave alone the house cleaning anyway, right? And then you have all these activities that you need to do as a woman. 100% for women, workplaces have to be really, really, really to consider that whether you're married or not, you still have the same duties, even much more when you're married than when you're a single woman. And I'll tell you why. Because a single woman can prioritize some of these work, what to do, what time and order. But when you're married, you have very strict, like it's feel like you have to do something. It's your duty to do some things. And sometimes when you're single, you can say, you know what, that one can wait. I don't want to do it now. I can wait for it. But what I'm getting here is that working places have to start considering women with the situations where we are. And I can say Europe is trying, is getting better, because as I said, the situation, working women are given this. I'm talking of Switzerland because I don't work in Germany. We're very clear. That situation is into there. But in Germany, they still have a lot of where the women are still working 100%. And I chose somewhere because it's not very far. I say that works for me and my family. And I get paid good salary that I can survive with, even if I'm working 60% and a single mother, I'll still be able to survive it, to bring food on the table. But how can workplaces consider this thing? And I can tell you, there's another thing that we need to, that the government, anyway, I don't know, as I say, in Kenya is different. I'm still working around here to give you a comparison. So in Germany, for example, or no, I think it's also in Germany. Let's go back to Switzerland, where I am, where I know. When you have, if you're working and your boss comes and tell you, oh, we have a meeting, can you join the meeting now? You have a right to say, no, I can't. I have to go and take care of the children. Yes, you have all the rights to say, no, you can't. They need to tell you in advance, because you are a benefit. If you have children, they're dependent on you. And so long as your children are dependent on you, they have the right, the children, more than the work. Because that means when you're not there, the government has another trouble, So you have the right to say no to your boss. You can, and you can fight a court case and you can win on this one, definitely. And the women need to know this possibility. They both have to tell you early enough so that you can plan yourself. And there's so many small things that you can play around in this area as a woman. But when they know they're right, but at the end of the day, is that some of us women are so scared to use these opportunities because the bosses might say, "Ah, you know what, I don't need you. I can take somebody else who's going to do what I want to." And you might lose your job. So we tend not to take, we push ourselves to the end to just make sure we please and keep up with everybody else. And we are suffering. We're really suffering. There's some things like I can tell you right now. For example, every evening here in Europe, there's Christmas party. And every time I hear there's a dinner somewhere that we have to do for meetings, I go like, oh my God, I have to go be home and cook for my kids. I can't do these late hours thing. So I cannot say no. And I said, yes, I'm going to be there. And literally, I would go in just to show my face and then run out and go home because I can't afford to keep up with these. And you see, they have a social life. And this is something that probably they don't see it, but we women, we have children, and especially the single mothers, I tell you, it's tough, especially when you're in Europe. And I'm sure anywhere else you are. So that place also count about the gender equality too and equity too. How do we start considering where is which women and which men and which, and I can tell you because even at work you find some women who are single, who don't have children. They go like, some of these women are taking advantage. Every time they say, oh, my child is sick, and sometimes someone is not sick, they really, sometimes we can overdo it as well so that to get advantages, some things that we don't end up doing, and we get conflict with the others as well. So I'm trying to give you a more real picture in my situation, and seeing how these things happen even here in Europe, and how it's getting better, but we have a long way to go, especially the women. And the women, we suffer a lot. We are trying to be the best, catch up with the best, and something else before I forget. Back to Germany, something I find it very strange. I think a woman in Africa is better off than a woman in Germany. I can guarantee you that. Why I say that, you will find the women in the class, in the school, the girls are really smart, they are very well educated, they're getting good notes. The boys, as usual, they're always playing around and not the best notes in school, hula hoo. Then the girls are really smart, they go on and on and on. And then they go to the universities, if they good, and then they get married. Well, all that comes down to zero, because you have to come home and take care of your kids, because you cannot continue working and you have children. So you find the women, I have seen the women, either they choose family or work. There's no both, because of the situation in the country. And you find so many women and young, especially 30, 40, they're not having children anymore. And they even get married, and it's written between they don't want children because they cannot cope with it and work and continue with their life. And you see this quite a lot happening here in Europe. And I hope Africa is not going to get to that point, because everything is always catching up with the other one. The women will stop having children, career, and because the system is not adjusting itself to allow women to be what they can be and still be mothers and children. So that's what I'm trying to say is quite embarrassed when I was in my my late 20s, when I got my last two boys, and I was the youngest. The others were really older, because they did the career, and education in Germany is quite long, takes a really long time. And then they have to have children. They're all 40s, and now in their 40s, and I'm in my late 20s. So I used to be the youngest, and they were the oldest. And I'm thinking, like, now what happens to you now? You have to count 10 years. You have to stay at home. After 10 years, when you're 40, you're 50, who's going to get you back to work 50? No. They'll go look for odd jobs. They find them doing, and they're very educated women. What happened? I mean, this is Europe, and so I'm just saying it's a big issue here, especially for the women. I pity them, because at the end of the day, then let schools have boys and not women, because at the end of the day, I don't know what happened to all those women who are the cleverest in the house. What happened to them? Where did they go? Yes, let me stop there because I can talk quite along in that area. And over to
Okay.
you guys.
Anyway. Yeah, Ellie, we've not gotten your sentiments on equality and equity. Now, what is your take on equality and equity before we go to we move now to the solutions to the problems, because we have established the problem. Now, before we move to the solution, we're going to get Ellie's take on equality and equity.
Well, Nyanduko, I think when we started off, the internet was playing some black and white colors on you. But ideally, this is something that I asked Eshuchi to help me through. But I will conclude with the following, just to make sure that we finish that. And I want to paint a few more scenarios. You see, when we talk about equity and equality in whatever measures we want to talk about, Joy has said something interesting about children and having children in Europe. I want to take you back to our countries that the traditional way or the very historic way of doing things is that the woman will ideally be the one to nature, rather carry the pregnancy, bring the child to life, and of course nurture the child until some level. Very quickly, Joy, because you have children, how many time off did you get of work to take care of your child when your first child, for example, if you don't mind sharing that, the official one? You can unmute your mic.
My both children, one is 18 and one is 14, so I can proudly say that now. Very often, I mean, they get sick. You're called by the teacher, especially winters. I mean, I have to say my children touch the wood. Yeah, I mean,
but for the leave period away from work, that now you have your maternity leave and plus.
Oh,
how long was it?
Okay. The leave for the maternity. Oh God. Okay, that time I was lucky, but I can tell you what happened when I had my children. I was not working, because my ex was able to finance for all of us. But normally here in Germany, it's like Switzerland is shorter. Here, Germany, it's longer. They make it very nice because also the man can have one whole year without working, and the woman as well, and they can prolong it as long as they can justify according to if they can manage. The man is given 1 year. That one, I find it really, really cool because they can take a leave for a whole year and take care of the children. So for example, you can work it around. So if you have the 2 months or 3 months or 4 months that you're going to be given for leave, so the wife can either go back to work and then the man continues can take another holiday and take longer. It's allowed to do that. But in Switzerland, it's only two months, which I found it so weird. And thanks God I didn't have to go through all that. It's really, really short, and the men are not included as well. So some countries have advantages and some not. I don't know about Denmark.
Well, Vicky, when you'll have one, you'll tell us. But for now,
let's know that.
The reason why I posed this question, and Vicky was complaining about my audio. I don't know how good or bad it is right now. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you well.
Yeah. So
it's okay.
The thing is, why I brought that up, we tend to forget the societies that we come from. And the society, like you say, in Germany, they give that grace period that you can go on your time out of work and take care of your newborn child. What happens in Nairobi, Kenya? Eshuchi, you have an idea? Probably with your colleagues, how many days did they get? The male one? Probably 10 days.
The male ones, the male one gets, they get 2 weeks in the organization I work. The women get 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. The women get 3 months. Yes.
So we want to talk about equality.
No. Oh, wait.
Vicky, you muted yourself because you wanted to say something that you cannot hear.
No. Why did you say that Victoria will tell us when she gets on, and then you go on and ask Eshuchi at your colleagues and so on and so forth? Please explain yourself.
Victoria, you
I'm
don't
being
have the
Today,
biased.
visual to
today you're avoiding me, but you're still getting into my trouble. Huh?
Well,
Thank you.
point is, Victoria, thank you so much. I beg to tender in my apologies. Can that be removed from the handset of this meeting? Now, why I asked Eshuchi that question is because we want to talk about equality in whatever reasons, but we have to see even where it all starts from. If you go back to history, see, especially, I'm going to talk about the Kenyan market, and that's why I asked Joy to even talk of where she is. And she said, for example, in Switzerland, it's this long. And here in Germany, for example, it's 1 year. And you will not be surprised that they tend to be almost at the same level in a lot of things. What happens in my country or some the areas that we come from is you give this man 2 weeks, and you expect them to perform their fatherly duties within 2 weeks, forgetting that they only did whatever length of period to have that child, and they are not going to bond at that moment that they're supposed to become a parent. So at the end of the day, this man is already being deprived of his equal contribution towards the upbringing of a family because more is expected of him. On the other hand, Victoria, you have to say something before you forget it, because I'm trying to say something here. So my thinking is, even as we advocate for more for the ladies, I want also the ladies on this board to advocate for more, especially if you want men to step up as parents, because you're denying us that fundamental period of time to bond with the family or the new family member. And then you'll be there pointing fingers and saying men are useless because they will never take care of the home chores, because they will not take care of the child. Ni mwanamke ndiye atasumbukana na watoto, ni mwanamke atalala bile. But you forget that the system has also made it in such a way that that so interesting part of a life of a child is taken away from the man. So for me, that is gender inequality, something that I hope Joy and his organizations can be able to talk about.
Well, first of all, I want to, before I let the other one come in, because it made me actually, because 18 years is like a long time ago. Again, back to the culture. Which culture are we talking about? Because if you're talking in Kenya, I don't even think a man being given 1 year, he'll be taking care of that kid. Huh? That's another story. Yeah. Back to the culture. That 1 year, that guy, I think, will open another job and the woman will still run. The idea here is that I told you the culture here, they have to help them. And I remember, because I'm still in Germany, and I remember my ex was also working in Switzerland. Now that it's 18 years ago, you guys are opening very Pandora box for a long time. He had 2 weeks, like the way you guys said. And my pregnancy, we didn't know, you know how you don't know when you're going to get your child. And he took the holiday, the 2 weeks earlier. And actually, mine was even past the 2 weeks. And I was left in the hospital with a cesarean. And he had to go back to work already, because his holiday was over when he was still waiting for me to get the first child. And I remember that because of the 2 weeks, as most of you have. It's very common in the other countries, but here in Germany is longer, but Switzerland is 2 weeks. So that's a different culture. So in Kenya, 1 year for men, I don't think that's a good thing. Give the women 1 year or 2 years to stay at home with their kids and pay them the salary. That would be my suggestion than 4 months or whatever 3 months they're given. This is too short. Having raised my child now, 2 boys, I don't know what I will do in 2, 3. These are really small little things that I get angry when I see the children being taken to the creche or this baby nursery, whatever. I mean, it kills my heart, and I see the mothers are going to work, because now I have the privilege. Now, when I had my children earlier, now I can go to work and see what is really happening. And I thank God that I finished these stories early, and I was lucky to have somebody to compensate for me to stay at home and take the kids. It's this young age is the very crucial age. What I see the women doing to be at work, to make sure that the kids are at home. Sometimes they give them medicine because they're sick. They don't want them to be sick by the time they get to the kindergarten. The child look very well, and they keep telling each other, "Oh, I gave this Panadol and I gave this." It's so sickening, and I cannot stand. Give women more time with their children, especially newborn child. 1 year maximum. At least that kid can walk. For me, if I was the president, any country, the women with children should stay at home 1 year, fully paid, finished.
But then again, if you look at it, that is one of the discussions I was having with somebody before I came to this show. And they told me, a lady, that they would be reluctant to hire a female for their job because they never know just when it happens and when they have to go for those prolonged periods, and they cannot afford that. So I don't know. Talking of giving them that longer year, probably not, but thinking of involving the men and making it a normal thing that men can actually be caregivers at home and away from work, then that is something I think I am willing to discuss and hope that we can actually implement.
But even as Madam Joyce said, at the end of the day, some of the men don't even know what to do. Like you're there, and the one of the reasons I feel that women also deserve that time and the Ellie, come back. There's no way you're running away, please. Well, because at the end of the day, so sorry to say this, but number one, I carry this child for 9 months. I go give birth to this child. I am healing because there's so much that goes into birth. It's not necessarily because the mother has to stay at home because of the child, but even because of themselves. Wow, wenyewe. Um, you're being there's some things that you said, and I'm just like, okay, wait. You said you're being deprived of the opportunity to bond with your child. You're not going to work for 24/7, are you? No, you come back, you spend that time with the child, and you sacrifice that time. I understand the need for you to be at home. However, let's take, for instance, you've been at home, you bonded with your child for 3 weeks. Then what? There's no role for you left for you to do. I'm going to breastfeed this child. I'm going to, do the necessity for this child. In schools, when people are called to school, who is the one called to school? Men even fear going to school when there's an emergency. They always call the mother. Why? Because some men don't even step up to the plate because they feel that women, yeah, you're saying no, but you already know your situation is very different. Please, let's just yours is different, so please.
I don't know what you're talking about, Victoria.
Reality is the numbers that are placed in kids, and the first person to be called in school is the mom, because men do run away. How many times do you hear a man has to go from work simply because his child is feeling ill? They will say, call the mom. How many times?
Let me ask Eshuchi because he's a teacher.
Victoria, do not. Okay, for my sake, do not get into. Do not align that discussion here. Okay, when it comes to men, fizzling away and leaving women with responsibility, let's make that discussion for another day. Let's make it for another day, because I have a lot to say about it. Because half the time it's very easy.
They ran away.
No, it's okay. It wasn't a confrontation, trust me. I wasn't attacking. I was just putting it out there. This is what I think. First of all, I'm listening to Joy, and I'm listening to the work situation on the other side, and I'm also trying to do a comparison. And I think, like we're saying, there are a lot of dynamics that we cannot just overlook. And of course, culture, context, location, and your geographical situation has a big part to play of. In the third world countries like Kenya, for instance, there is never an equation between an employer and an employee, which is something that people have never realized. For example, we are in a situation where you even treat your landlord like your boss, forgetting that this is someone that you're having a business exchange with. This is someone you're paying rent, and they're giving you accommodation. But you see, life has become so hard to the point little rights that actually belong to you have been served to you as privileges. So you handle everything as a privilege. The work situation in Kenya is a little different, in my opinion, because a lot of the employing bodies are little tiny private sectors, and the people are so jobless to the point you take very petty, non-contracted jobs. You see, in the first world countries, it does not matter how little the job is, there'll be some formality around it, and so you'll always have something. You'll always have a contract somewhere that is nicely done. You'll always have something that you can always take forth in case of anything. In Kenya, we don't have that. So when someone decides, you know what, I'm not giving you any leave, or I'm just giving you one day leave to go and take care of your, or whatever it is you have to, you don't even know where to start if you were to contest this. Now, when it comes to, this is my solution. Now, this is the rational way I would look at a possible solution on this gender and all that. In all fairness, yes, I know women have come a long way, but I've been very keen on the latest trend in the corporate world, and women are really filtrating in, which is a very good thing. So what I am saying is, let's also not drag this war of let's fight for our rights too long. I think we are at a point where, to be very honest, women have a good shot at creating policies that can actually help them. But I think we are dragging the discussion of, oh, we are discriminated too long. Ni ile yenye unaweza sema ulipigwa risasi ukaanguka ukapelekwa hospitali ukapona, but you just keep telling people of the bullet that you are. I see a lot of women in corporate places. I see a lot of women in places of influence, to be very honest. And culture is something that is very hereditary. You can have your own culture that you don't even know. You have something that you just do and you don't understand why you have to do it, but you've just conditioned yourself into doing it to the point you get. We have things that we have to offset in workplaces that possibly amount to this discrimination. Women, just make your case. And to be very honest, this one I will tell you, in places where we have senior people as women, the junior women employees suffer the most, by the way. So a lot of senior women in power don't actually give very good groundwork for the women down there. And that is why for a moment I want to ask a question. Is this war against discrimination, especially maybe basing it down to women, is this war against the gender, or is it against an individual? Because a woman is very I don't want that to come out any wrong, but I feel a woman is very vocal when they are defending their individual rights. But I don't see the vocalization of the same when they are doing this for the entire gender, to be very honest. It's a lot more on me. You are discriminating me because this and that. If it was a lot more vocal, trust you me, men would succumb. Another thing, if this was done in such a way, make a policy, say women we suffer childbirth and they post-maternal stress, and we have to go through a particular recovery period. Create that case without making it come as a competition to the other gender, because I think that is where the problem comes. When you fight for your right, and I have a son who always tells me, if you tell him don't do this, he will tell you, but so and so did this. You see, that is where we go wrong, because it is a competition with the other gender than a fight for a better environment for you and your people and the people around you. Because to be very honest, if you're saying that most companies are run by men, for example, and you are a woman and you want the men to give you a longer leave, I would also want to imagine that the man might not understand why you need the leave. If you women came and what, this is why we need this and this and this and this. Make it a war that has a case grounded on it, instead of an attack. These of manze, you guys, bana, you're discriminating against us. No, we are here and we think this would do better for us because of this and this. Be objective rather than subjective, and I think there could be a solution to this.
Thank you, Eshuchi. Now, as we can see, time is not on our side, so I'm gonna get closing remarks from everyone based on the topic that we've had tonight. And because Joy has been standing for a while, And we're gonna start at Joy's place as we move this way. I'll tell you which way. So, Joy, what are your closing remarks?
Yes, it's a modern way of presenting. You present when you're standing, but nobody knows I've been standing for 2 hours. But it feels
Who
good
knows?
because I see we are locked down. We are locked down here, and it's. I've been sitting for so long. I mean, 2 hours standing. It feels like nice spots for me for today. Yeah. Yes. This topic is a very well chosen topic, especially now, the month of Women's Day, International Day. So I find this topic also. It's good topic for the month, and solutions are there already. Women, we are getting there. I think the biggest achievement I would ever want to see the whole world is the salary part. That's for me. It's something I would want to see, the women earning the same salary as the men, and it should be everywhere in the whole world. That for me, I really, really want to make sure that, I mean, that would be my day that I will say, yes, we have made it. We have made it, and women are achieving as much as, earning as the same as the men. The rest is a culture thing. It's a time thing. A lot of mentor. We have to change our way of thinking and a way of doing things, and it can only start from us. The rest is in building the culture, and there is nothing that, if the culture is not ready, it takes a whole community to change a culture. So we start from each one of you. Considering that we are of different gender and we have different strength in each other way, and what can we use that to our advantage to make our family life or to make our life easier, right, starting from at home, starting with our own children, to make them aware of situations. And I can attest, this is the first thing that should be done. So yeah, it was a great discussion. Learned a lot from the young generation. You remind me of there were so many words you've used today. I think I need a dictionary to find out what they mean. I've agreed. I'm not anymore one of the youth anymore. But yes, it's a great discussion to be here with all of you. And I think it's good that you have also other generations also intervening to also give them to sharing their opinion as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll go first before Vicky bashes me. I'm avoiding any discussion between us. So my closing remarks on this one will be from some scenario I see in a course that I'm currently pursuing in leadership. And there was this theory that somebody was painting about a captain of a ship. And in his theory, it says, the captain is there to make sure that things run and the ship gets to destination and everybody's comfortable. And you meet this captain that greets you by name when you come in. And then when you go to your chamber and then it's written there, your bed was specially spread by your captain. So you see the captain almost everywhere. And then when you go to the kitchen, it's the captain that is actually preparing the meal you're going to eat. And once it's served at the table, the person that comes in that white and black, attire is the captain. And then, you try to take a strand in the ship, and you'll notice it's also the captain that is doing the call thing. And before you notice, you see like the captain is like forgotten what is happening, and is the ship is almost hitting an iceberg, and then with the turn of a wheel, then everything goes back, and boom, you say, oh, that was a close shave. And then you notice that everything went just fine. So what I'm trying to say with that kind of scenario is we equally need one another. And for the captain to be able to steer the ship and everybody that is in it to destination, it's because there are some systems that have been created. So it is high time we created systems that run even without the captain being there. Because somebody was arguing, probably one of the workers becomes disgruntled and say, we don't need the captain, so shove him off the water and he drowns and he dies. So because everybody is used to the way the system is running, everybody will see there's no difference. Then it will be 1 week and then 2 weeks, and then things will start going wrong. And then we notice that there's somebody missing. And finally, we notice that it is the captain missing. So as we fight this gender discrimination animal in the room, we need to remember that we all have an equal, rather, a very important role to play, despite of your gender or who you are. We need one another. At the end of the day, for these systems to work, there's somebody that has to take lead. But even as they take lead, we need to have, that kind of engine sort of mechanism that will make the motor or the car arrive at destination. That's my take.
Shuchi, go ahead.
Gender discrimination is just like any other form of discrimination. And I will insist, we are fighting a war that is inherited. So most of our bullets are targeted at the wrong, at the wrong end. I think the first thing is just, you see, it's just anything like racial discrimination. Look at that, for example. Someone hates you because you're black, or you hate someone because they're white, but you have no reason for your hatred towards them. It's like tribalism. I just feel like, this guy's name sounds closer home, so this one's going to be mine. And I think naturally it's human nature. There is always the need to feel a belonging, and whenever you are around someone, you want to either find a similarity or a difference. When I'm around a woman, I want to find the difference, or they're not in my gender. When a man clogs in, I feel now I can speak the same language as this man. You see, those stereotypic perspectives are the things that create a lot of these things. But most importantly, to fight discrimination of any sort, I think people should just have very genuine conversations, very honest conversations, because that is one thing that as a generation we lack. There's a lot of emotions around our reasoning. There's a lot of, there's a lot we don't listen, we don't observe, we listen to reply, we observe to react, and there is very little of what we do that is just anchored on empathy. We don't just look at things to empathize and understand and be able to, because if we understood, then you'd realize, I just need to know that, well, this woman needs this kind of support, and the woman in retrospect needs that. But most importantly, discrimination should not come as a way of war, because that is what now creates the defense in the other gender. And then now it becomes a push and pull altogether. Once it is us trying to get a better environment for us, and you people getting a better environment for you, then let it be so. Let not this war be something that is creating an altercation with the other person. And I think we could just have a solution in the long run.
Thank you. My internet is playing tricks on me, so I do not know who has not spoken and who has spoken. So I'm gonna assume Victoria has not said anything, and give it to Victoria. What are your final remarks?
I have a lot. I really have a lot, but we can agree to disagree. Number one, I'd say that it's not a competition of who's more discriminated and who's not and who's not discriminated. Gender discrimination happens towards both people. And number two, I wouldn't want to disqualify the fact that historically, socially, women are at a disadvantage. It's You mentioned something about it being a good shot, but it's not a fair shot. Whether we want to twist it, turn it, and chase it anyhow, it's not a fair shot, and that's why in the United Nations Sustainability Goals, goal number 5 states that it's a gender equality situation, and the goal is to be able to end all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere, eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls in the public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual and other types of exploitation, and much, much more, where we have forced marriages and also female genital mutilation. So this goes above and beyond even just having equal rights in terms of working and workforces. And now I'm not disagreeing with the fact that there's also male discrimination, but we don't also disapprove of the fact that we have a very long way to go. And like I said, it's not a fight against who's more discriminated and who's lesser discriminated. We can also have conversations without, as Shuchi said, without necessarily going into deeper emotions or being emotional about certain topics. However, I still feel that we really have a long way to go, especially with women and discrimination in general. That's just what I believe. But also remember, men can be discriminated. And as we fight for women's empowerment and as we fight for equality for women, we should not also forget that our boys are being raised and they're growing and they need to also be empowered and they also need to be at a level where they can also be given equal chances in other industries as well. So that's just my final take. And I'd still say we have 100,000 organizations that still fight for women and being harassed and so on and so forth. So it's a good shot that women have. However, it's not a fair shot. That's just my parting shot. And thank you. And Monday is International Women's Day, just for your information. So Ellie, I'm expecting flowers. Thank you very much.
It is a good shot, but it is not yet a fair shot. That is what Victoria says. Now, Ellie has, oh, you're back. You keep disappearing and reappearing like me. Now, I want to get your final remarks before we actually conclude the show because our time is almost up. Ellie.
He already did his final shot, just so you know. I'm just waiting for my flowers. So let's continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now you see the problems of disappearing and reappearing. I honestly did not know that. You locked me out of this conversation. I had things to say, but well, I'm gonna say them next week on the next show. It was a good show, and for everyone that has been tuned in and contributed throughout the show, we are so grateful and thank you for keeping the conversation going. Thank you, Joy, for dropping by and giving us the knowledge, and Eshuchi for coming back. It's been a beautiful night, and I am happy. And have a very good night. My grandma would have said over to Kobuya, so let me just say that. Good night. God bless.
Definitely, God bless you guys, and always a pleasure to be with you. Remember, the handles are The Arts in Hearts. That is on YouTube, Facebook, and that is on Instagram. Our guest is Shuchi and Joy Zen. Thank you so much for making time. Victoria, always trying to make points that, of course, need to sink in. And for all women watching tonight, we wish you happy International Women's Day on the 8th of March. That is next week on Monday. So till next time. Shuchi, you want to say something about your music very fast?
Oh, just listen to my music. Simple Love is an amazing song. I think so. As an artist, you write and there's a song you can write and you're like, you know what, this was done. Simple Love is a beautiful song, and I think it's worth a listen. It's a love song, Joy, but you will. Yes.
Yeah, Joy, in case you've been listening to nothing, you need to listen to this young man because Simple Love did it for me. Even though I still will root for my girl.
Okay, I'll listen to it.
So.
Have a beautiful night. And for those who haven't watched yet, this is what Eshuchi released recently. Go to YouTube, find it there, play the music, share, subscribe, and of course, remember, this is Art in Heart. And after this, I'm going to do a special one for my girls.
So every time that I'm by you, I'm gonna make an effort to secure your little insecurities. And every time you stand with me, nakuahidi utajua, utaamini that I'm just a simple man. I've been around long enough to see you growing into a beauty. I've known you, girl, and by now it's all clear. You are the one. I've seen you cry and laugh, I've seen you frown and smile, and now I know I want to keep you smiling. I've seen you love and hate, I've seen you sad and happy. Now I know I want to keep you happy. So my whole world, oh, I want to build around you, and my whole life, oh, stay with you, my girl, 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 my girl. 'Cause you're the one that I've ever desired, and your love just gives me assurance. Na tabasamu yako lapendeza, na isikuwa mimi ni wewe ni mimi. You are the one, you are the one, you are the one that I desire. You are the one, you are the one, you are the one that I desire. Wewe ndiwe, wewe ndiwe that I desire. So my whole world, oh, I want to build around you, and my whole life, oh, to stay with you, oh my girl, 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 my girl.